Chapter 11, The Yoga of Cosmic Form. About this chapter. This chapter teaches Arjuna that a special eye is needed to be able to see the hidden and actual creation in the presence of God or higher consciousness. This experience is what this chapter is all about. Arjuna first lets Krishna know that he understands that Krishna is not the human form that Arjuna sees. As God, he is beyond body, mind, intellect, and ego, and this is what he, as Arjuna, is as well, which is the oneness known as Atman or consciousness. That is not far away, but includes all, which at its essence is a homogeneous presence that is the self expressing as the individual self in each person. The higher self is this single presence. The supreme secret from the last chapter has been understood by Arjuna. Arjuna is appreciative for Krishna sharing this secret with him and shares his understanding. Remember that a secret here is a sacred knowledge which can only be understood by a mind that is prepared. The secret shared was about spiritual realization. Arjuna expresses that his own delusion is gone, about death of the body, but not the soul, and the understanding about the highest life realization itself. Arjuna shares that he heard the information that Krishna shared, that the birth and death of all living beings have all come from him. This is the one presence of existence. Arjuna calls Krishna the lotus-eyed one. This reference is to remind the reader that a lotus rises in water, but no drop of water stays with the lotus flower itself. It is a poetic way of acknowledging that Krishna remains untouched and unattached by all that he participates in and is surrounded by in this earthly plane. Arjuna says he has heard about Krishna's majesty directly from Krishna, but now he wants to see what he has heard and understood. Can you imagine the magnitude of the request from Arjuna? We already understand that there is no beginning to be seen, nor any end to creation. So how would Arjuna possibly see what he is asking? He asks to see the incomprehensible, universal form of the Lord. This is what he wants to see, the one that Krishna spoke of as the inclusion of everything from the beginning to the end of the universe. Arjuna can understand how each being carries the highest self as consciousness, yet imagining every being in the highest self represented as Krishna is beyond his comprehension. Arjuna understands that this would require a different level of maturity and awareness, yet this is what he would like to see. He wants to see the full glory or power or form of the Lord in front of him. He humbly asks this from Krishna. If it is possible for him to see, if Krishna believes he is worthy of this experience. Krishna lets him know that Arjuna would need divine eyes. The vision that is possible is not truly through human eyes, and Krishna knows this. He is able to give Arjuna this gift as he is asked with true humility and sincere intention. Krishna now reveals the imagery or vision to Arjuna of the most beautiful creations, including gods, goddesses, mountains, rivers, and oceans. The sun and the moon are seen as Krishna's eyes. Arjuna also sees people known to be forefathers, angels, and spirits. Arjuna sees in Krishna his enemies on the battlefield, as well as his allies. He sees demons and devils and snakes. He sees in Krishna a brilliance, like 1,000 suns, that spreads around him on every side of all creation beyond any image he could have ever imagined. He sees infinite mouths, infinite hands, and sees a blazing mouth into which all of these enter like moths to a flame. This information is being reported by the man we learned about early in the book, Sanjaya, who has a gift for seeing distant things and is reporting this experience to his king. Krishna had actually offered the blind king the same ability, but he had refused as he did not want to see the likely destruction and death he would see on the battlefield. During this visual experience, one can imagine that Arjuna was overwhelmed and awestruck, as well as incredibly shocked by the images he was seeing. He was not able to speak as he was watching, until he finally commented to Krishna that the three worlds he was seeing from Krishna, heavenly, lower worlds, and the earth, were all terrifying, and so was he, terrified to see it all. Arjuna pleads with Krishna to present himself in the form that Arjuna was familiar with, as he is afraid of the fearful images he's now seeing. The reason Krishna showed all of this to Arjuna was so that Arjuna could see both the good and the bad in the universe and know that all comes from him. Krishna reminds that Arjuna would see whatever he wanted to see. Of course, Arjuna wanted most to see the outcome of the war before him. Krishna intended to give Arjuna a higher vision to see the whole truth of creation and existence before answering this most pressing concern in Arjuna's mind. He now answers that righteousness will win. This, of course, means that whoever is fighting with righteousness will win. Arjuna had seen that fighters on each side entered the fiery mouth within the sharp teeth of Krishna in his vision. He verbalizes that each one entered very quickly. This detail is to remind Arjuna and all readers that death comes quickly. This was to show that the body dissolves quickly. Arjuna had seen some bodies hanging from the mouth with only half bodies too. This detail is to show that no one is spared, whether trying to resist or not. The key learning from this chapter is to understand that each person is playing their own part in the dharma they participate in. Arjuna already knows that he is playing his role conditioned by his own past actions, and that he still has the choice to act through right action now, either through his current desires or whims, or through his now higher understanding of his actions. As this person, he is a small piece of higher consciousness who is in its essence that same higher consciousness. This idea is not a perceivable reality to the human mind, but is realizable and knowable through wisdom. Arjuna has now seen that the same creator is the same energy that sustains the universe and is also the same that is the final location for all creation. Again, Arjuna understands that from creation as pure consciousness, he is a man. He understands Brahman and himself as Atman. Pure consciousness is the supreme self, and Arjuna is a servant of the work of Dharma. Arjuna sees that all of the streams and rivers all headed to the ocean, which was also to the Creator. He has seen the best of the warrior kings he knows. Each also entered the same mouth of creation, which also has been seen as the mouth of death. Arjuna realizes that knowledge and death are from the same Creator. So Krishna is giving Arjuna the knowledge of how to face death. This is the aspect that man finds least easy, facing death with courage. The knowledge is that each cause of each effect goes back to the same source of the cause. In Hindu and many other religious traditions, this also represents that before a life begins, it comes from the same source, and that is the same source into which life will end, only to start a new journey from the same source. This chapter is to teach the reader how to let go of anything with ease. That which is held onto unwisely will also be taken through life eventually. One is reminded that rivers flow easily to the ocean's source. Man has some conscious awareness and can also flow easily to his source in his life's dharmic journey. In this chapter, Arjuna has also seen moths drawn to the flame of the mouth. This is to show that each being has its own weakness and desire, and they also enter into the state of death. This is a teaching to Arjuna that some knowingly go to their death by actions they are aware will kill them. Saints and sages were seen as gratefully and humbly entering this mouth. This just shows that whether people willingly or unwillingly enter death, they are sharing the same experience eventually. Arjuna has also seen that the fiery mouth is enjoying every creation that is being received back. Krishna is clear with Arjuna here that he will show the form that Arjuna is comfortable with, but he wants that Arjuna knows that he showed the cosmic form, which showed the terrible and fear-inducing form, so that Arjuna is aware of both his loving form and could also see his ferocious form. The ferocity he showed was to make sure Arjuna realized how ferocious he can be in destroying evil. Then he transformed back into the form that Arjuna recognized and loved. Sanjaya reports that he sees Arjuna sighing in clear relief upon seeing the familiar form of Krishna, and lets Krishna know that he feels peaceful again and back to his own nature and his own senses upon seeing him this way. Sanjaya mentions that Arjuna was incredibly confused and agitated when he had seen Krishna in the cosmic form. Arjuna then speaks with Krishna with full humility and appreciation. He is so surprised that the person he considered as a simple but trustworthy friend is actually what he has now seen. Arjuna hardly believes that he really saw his friend in such a way. He is seeing this God and suddenly remembers how he has spoken with Krishna so lightly as a friend. And now, in this disbelief, Arjuna wants to know Krishna's beginning and his true nature, as well as why he would show Arjuna such details. Arjuna does not understand the purpose and intention of Krishna showing him all that he has seen. Of course, remember that Arjuna has requested seeing this himself. No other scripture has detailed God's all-encompassing and elaborate form as clearly and directly as what is revealed to the reader of this chapter. Krishna reminds Arjuna that the form that he showed him is not because of Arjuna's effort to see, but because of Krishna's grace to show him. He said that the form is not easy to see. It is actually most difficult to see it. He reminds Arjuna that he has now seen what even the gods in heaven that are highly evolved and have wanted to see, but even they have not seen. Arjuna feels so special, and Krishna tells him that he saw this form because his heart is pure, simple, and absolutely devoted to him. This chapter is to show that such an experience is not easy for anyone to handle, even if they would wish to have such a desire to do so. It only happens from a purity of mind and heart, and through full trust and devotion to the higher self. Krishna mentions that such a place is not reached by rituals of religion, by charity, by chants, by merely learning the knowledge. Krishna is clear that through heart-centered actions, religious actions, and understanding, one can get clarity, and then one is meant to give back to the world and not just keep this clarity for oneself. Worship of any god is for a single pointed focus. Studying scriptures gives clarity. Tapas, which is spiritual austerity or meditation, gives purity. Diksha, which is a preparation or initiation from a teacher or guru, allows to give charity, and worship gives integrity. Unless there is a single-pointed love or non-deviated devotion toward the higher consciousness, the mind is continuously pulled into various directions, and the union with this space is not possible. Krishna tells Arjuna that an intense, exclusive attention to the higher self is true devotion, and it is the most direct way to draw such power to oneself. Arjuna has shown Krishna his own non-deviated devotion. When a person has an intense desire to understand or know God or higher consciousness, this is the first step. This is only possible once a person has pulled away from their own mind and ego tendencies. Understanding how to think of God through some learning allows one to start allowing such knowledge and experience. The goal of Gita, again, is to bring a person to his or her own higher nature as existence, consciousness, and bliss. In getting to this space, one begins to understand this nature and then seek to be exactly that, to know, to recognize, to visualize, and then to realize the truth. The next chapter shows how one can actually prepare for a true union experienced by a person who seeks to honestly experience and live from truth and integrity. To get to this place, one must become the nature of the Lord or higher consciousness. To do this, one must understand the true nature of the Lord to focus one's thoughts, words, and actions with sincere appreciation and communication with the Lord as well as with others who one surrounds themselves with. Best is similar company that encourages similar discussions and actions. Oneness occurs only when a person is able to see oneness in all around. A deep compassion is also recognized as a union with the higher self. Remembering that the self is always part of each action is the consistent awareness that such a devotee represents. Such a person is determined to make a difference through his presence and dissociates from everything else, selfish experience, with no hatred towards anyone else. This is the expression of true devotion to the higher self, and each person has the right essence for such a union. A person whose work is dedicated to the Lord or higher consciousness through karma yoga, whose goal is the Lord or higher consciousness, who is a devotee of the Lord or higher consciousness, who is free from all attachment and devoid of all sense of enmity. All or any of these details are achieved only by first gaining the knowledge of the higher consciousness within each person. These pointers are mentioned by Krishna to Arjuna at the end of this chapter, but will be elaborated upon to inspire Arjuna in the next chapter. Chapter 11, The Yoga of Cosmic Form, for the Healthcare Guru. Most people who might read this chapter would think the book has gone into a fantasy style of writing and feel it's a very creative imagination that has put the idea into expression. Remember that the Gita was written for the true intention of guiding people in their personal life experiences. For those working with healthcare, it might be wise to read deeper into the words expressed to understand the application for our personal work. The chapter is about Arjuna asking to see the divine form of higher consciousness. This may bring to mind the idea of, be careful what you wish for, and many healthcare practitioners can experience this. Sometimes it is the wish to be recognized, sometimes the wish for higher salary, sometimes the wish for more free time. Each or any wish that we may have will come with something good and not good or something unexpected. So recognition may lead to less privacy even when running simple tasks in the neighborhood when the practitioner wants some alone time with their own thoughts. The higher salary may come with new job responsibilities or less easy supervisors or leaders. The free time from a lighter schedule may come with less income and maybe even some guilt about patients not seen. Often, more free time also gets filled with new tasks and responsibilities, and sometimes only arise out of a need to care for one's own health. This duality of life becomes clear if one takes time to understand the experience. Remember that the Gita is also an elaboration of the Sanskrit Tattvam Asi, meaning thou art that in English. And the first 6 chapters focused on the analysis of the self. The next 6 chapters that we are now reading now focus on the transcendent supreme being or God. In this chapter, we can see that we are seeing from Arjuna's eyes the good and the ugly in this vision, remembering that this book is about how to live one's life in an honest and meaningful way, and knowing that it relates God's actions with what thou are, bridges the understanding behind this chapter. Many people working in healthcare feel very good when the outcome of care is expected and desirable. Many look at undesirable outcomes as truly heart-wrenching. Yet if one can see that the higher consciousness sees all outcomes as right rather than the human mind's tendency to look at the same as either good or bad, we can gain some understanding for our work with patients or clients. Remember, the intentions and actions stemming from those intentions then lead to outcomes. This chapter can remind each person working through such energy that outcomes are right as they arise from a creation that combines every energy that has influenced the outcome. Many times we may know that a work or home environment is very supportive or very difficult for a client. We know this contributes. The upbringing contributes. The nutrition and quality of sleep contributes. The friends and environment contribute, and so much more. This certainly helps us pull away from an ego attachment to poor outcomes, but is especially useful to remember with good outcomes. Now, in learning about the supreme form of higher consciousness or God in this chapter, were you frightened by the imagery of the form as Arjuna was? If we look at our day-to-day human experiences, are we frightened by the horrific acts of violence we may see, hear, or become aware of in our own practice? Do we see death as part of life, regardless of age, or can we see we are horrified when this happens to a younger child? Do we give different care to convicts and felons than we do to their victims? Are we able to see the value in each life as that which contains in its true essence what we learned from the first 6 chapters, the same as what we carry? We can take this chapter to look deeper into our interactions with patients or clients too. Sometimes we may think we don't know about a certain aspect of a patient that they didn't show us earlier in our working time with them. In those times, we may think, now I know who they really are. Yet they are the same essence still too. We may be seeing a different aspect we didn't see before, and this can broaden our awareness in our own care. Still, it is very common for human nature to still judge the good or the bad of people. Of course, such thinking or judging also leaks into how we interact with people in our personal lives too. If we feel a person owes us something, either in their mannerisms or actions or even in their payment, we may find that we do this with our personal relationships too. Do they owe us, or do we owe it to ourselves to act from the higher consciousness within ourselves? Now let's take a look more closely at ourselves. Most of us feel pretty good about who we are and the work that we do too. Certainly, social appreciation for healthcare is felt most through the people most benefiting from it. And how good is each of us? Only we can know this. If we truly look carefully, there is something less than ideal about each of us. There are things that people know about us as our clients that are different than the things that our closest relations know about us. Things we do not need to share with clients even if they ask. This is kept as our own personal information that does not need to be shared. There are things that even our closest relations may not know about us, not necessarily when times are not good either. In good times and not good times, there are things about ourselves that we do not share with anyone. This makes us feel safe, and those truths are often kept close to our own hearts, often due to a fear of judgment from another. What we can remember from this chapter is that we all have good and ugly sides within each of us. Sometimes the ugly does not arise until a particularly uneasy time in life. Those times can be seen to most often be linked with times of fear. If we do not take time to see that these tendencies are within us, we will both deny this truth and have less compassion for ourselves and others that we care for. This chapter is speaking about first, our own desire, or not, to understand the nature of our true higher consciousness. If we do have this intention, we can easily see that the higher consciousness is aware of both good and not good energies in all of creation, as that is the source of it all. We can see that love and devotion is appreciated by ourselves working from either our lower self natures or by our higher selves. So then, do we put a heartfelt or loving energy into the work we do with our clients or patients through our thoughts, words, and actions? It's easy to feel good when we are knowing that we are working from such a space. Imagine having such true devotion that is discussed in this chapter for ourselves. This is the art of working from our higher selves for our own higher self. As many may have heard, you have to love yourself before you can love another. The same is true for forgive yourself, have compassion for yourself, or know yourself. Now change all of those lower self perspectives to the higher self. From here, we can understand the same words as love your higher self, forgive your higher self, have compassion for your higher self, and know your higher self. Whether you think of this higher self as a divine energy or not, thinking and acting from this space, from the knowledge gained so far, feels truly divine. Many healthcare practitioners may wonder how exactly can we put into practice what seems so logical to read into workplaces that are filled with high emotions, lots of judgment, and overwhelming demands from time pressures affecting our personal and professional lives. Perhaps we can start by noticing that everyone is juggling the exact same concerns through different avenues of their own life experiences. No one is immune to our shared life experience. Healthcare providers may, however, have an advantage in knowing that some education and work experience has already placed us into a compassionate appreciation of the human condition. We can look specifically at the section where Arjuna saw all enter the flames of the mouth of the cosmic form, where he learned specifically that some run to their own deaths through doing things they know they can kill them, like moths into a flame. Here we can see that each healthcare professional may do the same, some through overworking, some through excessive drinking, smoking, or other addictions, and some through their risky and illegal behaviors that may cost them their license, among other undesirable results. Finally, we can look at how the idea of uniting with our higher consciousness has nothing to do with our charity work, our knowledge of medical information and details, our support and belief in our professional verbally, or the glories or accolades we may receive through the work. These are all useful contributions to good work. However, it is the honest, heartfelt devotion we feel towards the work that contributes to helping those around us that matters the most. Most people are aware of churches, temples, synagogues, and mosques, as well as healthcare settings that are filled with people gossiping about others, jealous of others, kind to some and unkind to others, and basically judging each other daily. We can see this in any healthcare practice, whether a person is working as a sole proprietor or as part of a specific healthcare team. There are comparisons and judgments about other healthcare practices or practitioners, and also about the patient seen and treated. This is not an energy that comes from a space of higher consciousness. This comes from a space of ego-centered, unconscious thoughts, words, and actions. We can remember that people have been known to memorize specific Bible verses and sometimes even the whole Bible, just like memorizing the Quran or the Gita, and this is perceived by many as very commendable and truly faithful. Some people memorize entire medical pieces of literature, and this is often regarded the same way for the skill of the mind of the healthcare practitioner who can easily express such information at lectures or conferences. And we can see that knowing or saying the words are far from living the experience in practice. This chapter reminds us all to look into ourselves and become consciously aware of the intentions and integrity of our practice. The best part may be that although some may feel this is a huge task, as it sounds as if one is trying to be perfect, which is not easy to be, there is a clear direction that each person only has to have this heartfelt intention in mind for divine help that comes along to assist each of us reach this truly heart-filling and satisfying experience for ourselves and for each patient or client we work with and each team we help, whether personally or professionally. Now it's time to use more knowledge to create a working wisdom that can only improve with the addition of devotion into our work and our own higher consciousness. The next chapter teaches how we can make this energy a practical part of our life experience, especially for our higher selves, and for those in our care.